Welcome back to Reading Queen, my fellow bookworms. Gonna be continuing the Tale of Magic chapter I started in a recent video. So that's part 2. So, let's get started. Madam Weatherberry, she gasped. It's you! Bristol had never experienced such a shock in her life. As the reality sank in, Bristol's whole body went numb, and she couldn't even feel the freezing air circulating the palace. Her mind was bombarded with millions of questions, but only a single word escaped her mouth. How? The exposed fairy was humiliated and covered her frost-bitten face. She crawled to the dining table and used a chair to pull herself onto her feet. I never wanted you to find out, Madam Weatherberry said. You were supposed to kill me before you learned the truth. But, how is this even possible? How could you be the Snow Queen? Sometimes good people do bad things for the right reasons. Bad things? Bristol asked in disbelief. Madam Weatherberry, nothing could possibly justify what you've done. You've been lying since the day I met you. You've covered the world in a devastating storm. You've destroyed an entire kingdom and taken thousands of lives. It's nothing compared to the lives they've taken from us. For a split second, the Snow Queen returned to Madam Weatherberry's body. The fairy screamed in agony as if a creature was trying to claw its way out from inside her. Bristol retrieved her wand to defend herself from the witch. As she watched Madam Weatherberry struggle, Bristol realized her teacher and the Snow Queen weren't the same person, but two very different beings fighting over the same body. Eventually, the fairy regained control and suppressed the witch like a growing illness. I never meant for any of this to happen, Madam Weatherberry said. All I wanted was to make the world a better place for people like us. All I wanted was to secure acceptance for the magical community, but I lost myself. Along the way, I created her. How could someone lose themselves that much? Bristol was so befuddled, she felt like she might faint. Madam Weatherberry lowered her head in shame and took a deep breath before explaining. Do you remember our conversation the day you were attacked by the witch hunters? We were sitting in my office and you asked me how I managed to stay so optimistic. You asked me why I wasn't consumed with anger. I told you it was because we were the lucky ones. I told you that fighting for love and acceptance meant we only knew love and acceptance. But how that notion gave me peace. Do you remember that? Yes, I remember, Bristol said. Well, I lied to you, Madam Weatherberry said. The truth is, I've been angry my entire life. When I was young, I was very sensitive to the world's cruelty, and it filled me with an unbearable fury. I ignored all the good things in my life and focused solely on the injustice around me. I became bitter, I became depressed, and I became desperate to get rid of my rage. But I didn't go about taking the prideful to seek the treatment I needed. Instead, I pushed all my anger deep within myself, and I hoped if I pushed it deep enough, I'd never be able to find it. Over the years, I added more and more anger to my secret collection, and eventually I created a monster inside me. You mean the Snow Queen lives inside you? Bristol asked. Yes, Madam Weatherberry said. I spent the majority of my life ignoring her, but I've always known she was there, growing stronger after every heartbreak. With time, I noticed that many people in the magical community were suffering from similar ailments. Our anger manifested itself in different ways. Some drank too many potions to numb the pain. Others turned to witchcraft as a way to rehearse it, to release it. But one by one, I watched my friends lose themselves to their inner demons. I didn't want another generation of fairies or witches to experience what we were feeling, so I decided to devote my life to securing acceptance for our community, so the future would be spared from humankind's hatred. So you wrote and published the truth about magic, Bristol said. You tried to convince the world there was a difference between fairies and witches. You tried to redefine the magical community to save it. Madame Weatherbury nodded. However, the endeavor quickly backfired. My book was banned in all the kingdoms, and I became a global pariah. As punishment for my attempts, the Northern Kingdom sent a cavalcade of soldiers to my home in the in-between. They strapped my husband to wooden posts and burned him alive while they forced me to watch. Horrence! Bristol gasped with large eyes. You're the witch from his story. Horrence tried to warn me before I came here. I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, but he warned me about you. He was telling me that two things were about to come one. That carving in the woods, those were your initials. Horrence Marks and Snowy Weatherbury, she said. It feels like a long time ago. Snowy is your real name? Bristol asked. That can't be a coincidence. It isn't, she said. The fairies named me Snowy Celeste Weatherbury after my specialty. They said I started causing storms from the moment I was born. Bristol had been so focused on discovering her own specialty, she had never asked Madame Weatherbury what her specialty was. Now that she knew the answer, she couldn't believe she hadn't figured it out already, and not just because weather was in her name. On our first night at the academy, there was a horrible thunderstorm, she said. You summoned that storm because you knew it would frighten us and bring us closer together, didn't you? And after Lucy and I went into the in-between, you sent us another thunderstorm so we wouldn't leave the castle while you were gone. And 2 days ago, you sent that snowflake to the academy so I would come to the Northern Kingdom. You've been using the weather to manipulate us from the beginning. The fairy nodded again. Bristol scrunched her forehead because something about Madame Weatherbury's story still wasn't adding up. But why did the fairies name you? She asked. When we recruited Emeralda from the coal mine, you said you were raised by a human family. You said they tried to kill you, and that's how you got the burns on your left arm. I lied, Madame Weatherbury said. I only told that story to convince Emeralda to join the academy. The burns on my arm didn't come from a fire. It was frostbite. The frostbite that covers me now. So you got those marks from using witchcraft, Bristol said. That's why you started covering yourself with gloves and coats. And that's why you wouldn't let Mrs. V treat your wounds. The bruise I saw on your face, that was frostbite too, wasn't it? The more damage you cause as the Snow Queen, the more frostbite covers you. Madame Weatherbury looked down at her bony, blackened hands and sighed with a heavy heart. Correct, she said. And the more she covers me on the outside, the more she consumes me on the inside. But what led you to witchcraft in the first place? Bristol asked. How did you go from writing the truth about magic to destroying an entire kingdom? After Horrence was After Horns was killed, I used witchcraft for the very first time to bring him back from the dead, she explained. The spell was a complete disaster. Horns returned to Earth as an unnatural being, and my left arm was changed forever. But it wasn't only my arm that changed. I told you the witch in Horns' story died after she conjured the spell, but that wasn't entirely untrue, because part of me did die that day. How so? Bristol asked. My husband never committed a crime or hurt anyone in his life, but humankind murdered him simply to teach me a lesson. And indeed, I learned a very valuable lesson that day. I suddenly realized I had been foolish for believing the truth about magic was enough to change humanity's ways. They would never be persuaded by the logic or empathy of a book. The only way humankind was going to accept the magical community was to fear and need magical community. We had to give them a problem, and then we had to be the solution. And as I laid my eyes on my frostbitten skin for the very first time, I knew exactly what problem to create. The Snow Queen? Precisely, Madame Leatherberry said. To become the Snow Queen, I had to access all the anger that I had suppressed over the years. Just like your wand put you in touch with your magic, the scepter put me in touch with my rage. Unfortunately, there was so much fury waiting inside me, the task became overwhelming. Each time I picked up the scepter, the Snow Queen became stronger and stronger, and it became harder and harder to fight her off. I asked Philina and Nutalia and Squiddle and Crowbeth to join me and help me with the transitions, but the witches cared more about revenge than acceptance. They allowed the Snow Queen to control me, and they used her like a weapon. But why didn't you stop? Bristol asked. If the Snow Queen was consuming you like this, why did you keep returning to the Northern Kingdom? Because the world wasn't taking her seriously, Madame Weatherberry said. My plan would only work if the whole world saw the Snow Queen as an unstoppable threat. It would take complete desperation for them to turn to witches and fairies for help. But King Nobleton consistently lied to the other monarchs about the destruction the Snow Queen caused. So to gain the other sovereigns' attention, I increased the attacks and made each one grander than the one before. However, it didn't matter how hard the Snow Queen struck the Northern Kingdom. The other monarchs ignored her. The only way King Champion, Queen Industria, and King Warworth would ever acknowledge the Snow Queen was if her destruction went worldwide. And now you've covered all the kingdoms in a blizzard, Bristol said. You've given humankind the ultimate problem. So how's the magical community the system? Who are they supposed to turn to for help? Madame Weatherberry hesitated before responding, and Bristol could tell the answer was going to be difficult to hear. The Academy, she confessed. What? Bristol gasped. If the world had recognized the Snow Queen's first attack, I would have never had to involve anyone else, Madame Weatherberry said. I could have been the problem and the solution to my plan. But as the attacks continued, I realized the Snow Queen would likely devour me before I completed the mission. So I recruited a coalition of fairies to finish what I had started in case I was compromised. So that's the real reason you started the Academy? Bristol asked in disbelief. You weren't training us to help and heal people. You were training us to be your assassins? I wasn't lying when I said teaching was the greatest privilege of my life, Madame Leatherberry said. Watching you and the others flourish has brought me happiness like I've never known before. I'm deeply remorseful to put you in this position now, but in order for us to succeed, I'm afraid you have to fulfill the promises you made me. Bristol felt like her stomach had been yanked out of her body. Madam Weatherbury, no, she cried. I could never kill you. Yes, you can, Madam Weatherbury said. When humankind learns that you save the world from global annihilation, they'll finally have a reason to respect and accept the magical community. You and your classmates will lead the world into a new era where people like us will never have to will never have to hide in the shadows, where they can live openly without fear, and they'll never be crippled by their anger again. No, Bristol said. There has to be another way. This is the only way, Madam Weatherbury said. Believe me, I wish there was an easier path to take, but this is the greatest opportunity that fairies and witches have had in centuries. If we don't do this now, it may be another millennium before we have a second chance. No, we'll find a better solution, Bristol said. Come back to the academy. We'll find a way to cure you from the Snow Queen. It's far too late for that, Madam Weatherbury said. Scepter or no scepter, the Snow Queen has consumed me, past the point of no return. I have days, maybe hours, before she takes me over completely, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life imprisoned inside her. Madam Weatherbury raised Bristol's wrist, so she had the tip of her wand. So the tip of her wand was pointing at her teacher's frostbitten forehead. Please, I'm begging you, the fairy said. No, I can't do this. We don't have a choice. I'm sorry, Madam Weatherbury, but You'll never be able to defeat me, you stupid, incompetent girl. Suddenly, the Snow Queen resurfaced in Madam Weatherbury's body. The witch wrapped her hands around Bristol's throat and started choking her again. Bristol couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred, and she started losing consciousness. If she didn't act fast, she would die in the Snow Queen's hands. Bristol raised her wand, pointed it at the witch, and made a decision that she would regret for the rest of her life. Bam! A bright and powerful blast erupted from Bristol's wand and hit the Snow Queen directly in the chest. The witch flew across the dining hall and landed hard on the floor. Bristol kept her wand raised as she cautiously approached the Snow Queen's motionless body. The witch's eyes fluttered open, but instead of seeing the Snow Queen's glowing red gaze, Madam Weatherbury's eyes returned. What just happened? She asked. I made my decision, Bristol said, and I'm not killing anyone. You should have finished her. All of this could be over by now. You might be right, Bristol said, and later I may regret sparing you, but not nearly as much as I would regret ending your life. I'll never understand why you chose violence as a road to peace, but I'll never understand why you chose fear as a remedy to hate. But I will not repeat your mistakes. If I'm going to continue down the path you've paved, then I'm going to walk it at my own pace. Bristol, humankind will need proof that you slayed the Snow Queen. My death is the only way you'll earn their trust. You're wrong, Bristol said. You don't have to die for your plan to succeed. On the contrary, all the destruction you've caused, all the fear you've installed, and all the lives you've taken will be meaningless without you. What are you talking about? Madam Weatherbury asked. You said it yourself. The only way humankind will respect and accept the magical community is if they need the magical community, Bristol explained. But the minute the Snow Queen is destroyed, humankind won't need us anymore. They'll forget she ever existed. They'll rewrite history and say they were the ones who conquered her. And the world will go back to hating fairies and witches just like before. But if you stay alive and keep the world in fear of the Snow Queen striking again, the magical community will always have leverage over humankind. But I can't keep fighting her like this, Madame Motherberry said. I don't believe that for a second, Bristol said. You said you only have days or hours before the Snow Queen consumes you completely. Well, I say you have years or decades left in you. You're giving up because you don't want to fight her anymore. But the Madame Motherberry I know and love would never let me quit like this, and I'm not going to let you either. But what do you suggest I do? Where do you suggest I go? I suggest you use whatever strength and time you have left to get as far away from civilization as possible. Take yourself deep into the northern mountains and get lost in a cave somewhere. Find a place that's so far removed, not even a map of magic would detect you. Send a gentle snowstorm through the kingdoms every now and then to remind humankind that you're still around. But whatever you do, keep yourself alive. But what if she consumes you and returns? Then we'll be ready for her, Bristol said. We'll find other fairies around the world and recruit them into the academy. We'll train them using the lessons you've taught us and prepare them to face her. We'll create such a strong coalition of fairies that the Snow Queen will never stand a chance against us. The front doors of Tinsel Palace creaked open, and the sound of several sets of footsteps echoed through the corridors. Lucy, Esmeralda, and Xanthus, Tangerina, and Skylane entered the royal residence, and Bristol could hear their hushed voices as they searched for her. It's your classmates, Madame Motherberry said. They can't see me like this. If they discover the truth, they'll be devastated. They'll lose faith in everything I've ever taught them. Then don't let them, Bristol said. Follow my plan. Leave the palace before they see you. But what will you tell them? They can never know what I've done. I'll tell them the truth, Bristol said. I'll say that after a long battle, the Snow Queen finally overpowered you, but you managed to scare her off and send her into seclusion first. That's all they need to know. The classmates' footsteps were growing closer in the corridor outside the dining hall. Madame Motherberry looked back and forth between Bristol's pleading face and the open doorway, and she couldn't decide what to do. Please, Madame Motherberry, Bristol said. I know it's not what you planned, but I know this is what's best for all of us, and that is a promise I can keep forever. There wasn't time to think of a better option. Madame Motherberry let out a deep sigh that came from the bottom of her weary soul and accepted Bristol's proposal. Look for the northern lights, the fairy said. What do you mean? Bristol asked. The lights will be my signal to you, Madame Motherberry said. As long as there are northern lights in the sky, you'll know I'm winning the fight. And the minute they disappear, it means the Snow Queen is coming back. All right, Bristol said. I'll watch the lights. Good, the fairy said. Now help me to the door in the corner. I'll sneak out the servants' corridor before the others find me. Bristol helped Madame Motherberry to her feet and escorted her to the door in the corner of the dining hall. Before the fairy left, she had one final thing to say. Madame Motherberry grabbed Bristol's hand and looked into her eyes with a grave expression. Listen carefully, Bristol, because this is the most important lesson I will ever teach you, she said. Don't make the mistakes I made, no matter how cruel or unfair the world becomes. Never forfeit your happiness, and no matter how poorly someone treats you, never let it rob you of compassion. The battle of good and evil isn't fought on a battlefield. It begins in each and every one of us. Don't let your anger choose sides for you. As Madame Weatherbury slipped into the servants' corridor, the classmates charged into the dining hall. They were panting and frantically looking around the room in fear, but they were relieved to see Bristol was safe. "Oh, thank God!" Lucy exclaimed. "I was afraid I'd have to perform the tambourine at your funeral." "I'm fine," Bristol said. "I'm glad you guys are here, too." Where's the Snow Queen?" Sanctus asked. "She surrendered and fled into the mountains," Bristol said. The classmates were overjoyed to hear this and hugged one another in celebration. But Bristol looked to the floor, her face filled with sadness. "Bristol, what's wrong?" Skylene asked. "This is wonderful news," Tandrina said. "Isn't it?" "Wait a second," Esmeralda said. "Where's Madame Weatherbury? Did you find her?" Bristol lowered her head and burst into tears. It wasn't until she asked about Madame Weatherbury that the truth had finally caught up to her. "She's gone," Bristol cried. "She's gone." So that is the end of the almost the ending chapter. We have a few chapters left. Well, I think 2 of them. I'm gonna work on the other classmates came out of nowhere. I need to work on those voices more. Like Esmeralda sounds like a sassy middle schooler. Okay, anyways, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications maybe, and share your friends for more awesome videos like this. Bye!